The first two episodes of Dutton Ranch make one thing very clear immediately. Beth Dutton and Rip Wheeler were never going to get a peaceful ending. After everything that happened in Yellowstone, fans hoped Texas would finally give them a quieter life. Instead, episodes 1 and 2 throw them into another violent ranch war almost instantly. But what makes this sequel interesting is that it does not simply repeat Yellowstone's formula. The danger in Rio Paloma feels older, more controlled, and far more secretive. And by the end of episode 2, the real threat may not even be the murder cover-up. It may be Carter, because while Rip secretly hides a dead body and Beth battles a powerful ranch dynasty, Carter unknowingly falls for the granddaughter of the family that could destroy them all. The fire changes everything before Texas even begins. The wildfire in episode 1 is more important than many viewers realize. That ranch in Montana represented something Beth and Rip never truly had before, a future that belonged only to them. In Yellowstone, every fight revolved around John Dutton's legacy. Beth and Rip spent years protecting land that emotionally belonged to someone else. This ranch was different. It was theirs. That is why the fire feels symbolic. The show destroys their dream before they can settle into it. Rip rushing to save the horses while Beth protects Carter perfectly reflects who they are emotionally. Rip still believes saving the ranch comes first, while Beth's instincts are becoming more maternal than they were in Yellowstone. The series quietly shows that Beth has changed more than viewers expected. In Yellowstone, she hated ranch life and especially hated horses because they reminded her of childhood trauma and her complicated relationship with John Dutton. But in Dutton Ranch, she risks everything to save animals during the fire and later spends a well full of money to save an injured horse instead of euthanizing it. That emotional shift matters because Beth is finally trying to build something instead of only destroying things. Unfortunately, Texas immediately drags her back into survival mode. Why Rio Paloma feels more dangerous than Montana. One of the smartest decisions in the first two episodes is how Texas is presented. Montana and Yellowstone often felt wide open, political, and explosive. Texas feels tighter and more suffocating. Rio Paloma already belongs to another dynasty before Beth and Rip arrive, and everyone in town seems aware of it. That dynasty is the Jackson family. And Beulah Jackson instantly becomes one of the most intimidating Yellowstone universe villains because she is calm instead of loud. Beth calling her a grizzly in Gucci explains everything about her character. Beulah carries herself with elegance, but underneath that calm exterior is someone who controls the region through fear, influence, and generations of power. The show even hints that the Jacksons existed long before modern Texas ranch empires. The Ten Petals Ranch has reportedly survived for nearly 190 years, predating the fall of the Alamo. That detail matters because it positions the Jacksons as Texas royalty, much like the Duttons were treated in Montana. But unlike John Dutton, Beulah feels colder. John protected legacy emotionally. Beulah protects power strategically, and that difference makes her dangerous. Rob Will's murder reveals the Jackson family's dark secret. The murder of Wes Ayers becomes the central event of episodes 1 and 2, but the real story is not the murder itself. It is how casually the Jackson family reacts to it. Rob Will killing Wes during an argument shows that he is violent and unstable. But Joaquin and Beulah responding like this is a routine cleanup operation tells viewers something much darker. This family has buried scandals before. Joaquin instantly moves into fixer mode. Beulah immediately prioritizes reputation over morality. Even the ranch hands seem used to fear and silence. That changes the entire meaning of the story. The Jacksons are not simply another rival ranch family. They are a machine built on hidden violence. And the moment Wes's body is dumped on Dutton land, Beth and Rip become connected to secrets they do not even understand yet. The symbolism here is important. The Duttons inherit a ranch already poisoned by another family's sins. Before they can even establish themselves in Texas, they are standing on top of someone else's buried violence. Why Rip secretly hid Wes's body. Rip's decision to hide Wes's corpse instead of reporting it is probably the most important moment in episode 2. At first glance, it feels like classic Rip Wheeler behavior. Yellowstone fans are used to Rip solving problems outside the law, but this situation is actually more emotional than practical. Rip hides the body because he is trying to protect Beth. He sees how exhausted she already is adjusting to Texas. Beth hates the heat, distrusts the locals, and immediately senses danger around the Jacksons. Rip understands that finding a corpse on their property would drag them into another endless war, so he handles it alone. That decision reflects one of Rip's oldest character traits. He carries pain silently because he believes protecting people means burdening himself instead. But the tragic irony is that secrecy is exactly what usually damages Beth the most. Beth can handle violence, she can handle enemies. What destroys her emotionally is betrayal and being excluded from decisions. Rip keeping something this massive from her could eventually create tension between them, because their marriage in Yellowstone survived largely through brutal honesty. And Beth already suspects something is wrong after waking up and finding Rip gone during the night. The mine shaft scene changes Rip's future. When Rip dumps Wes's body into the abandoned mine shaft, the scene feels very similar to Yellowstone's infamous train station cleanups. But there is one major difference. In Montana, Rip understood the system. The train station was part of an established Dutton operation. In Texas, Rip is improvising. That makes this far more dangerous. He does not know who is watching. He does not understand local politics yet. Most importantly, he unknowingly inserts himself into the Jackson family's cover-up. If the Jacksons discover Rip moved the body before law enforcement does, Rip suddenly becomes both a liability and a potential threat to them. And because Rip acted alone, Beth has no idea how deeply involved they already are. Beth's business plan finally proves she was right in Yellowstone. One overlooked storyline in episodes 1 and 2 is Beth's beef business, but longtime Yellowstone viewers immediately recognize why this matters. Beth is finally building the exact business model she once begged John Dutton to embrace: high-end branded beef sales instead of endless land wars with little financial return. In Yellowstone, John refused because he viewed ranching emotionally. He cared more about preserving tradition than modernizing profits. Beth always saw the bigger picture, and ironically, Texas may finally prove she was right all along. However, there is a problem. Beulah Jackson already controls the slaughterhouse system in Rio Paloma. That instantly turns Beth's business ambitions into a territorial challenge. Their argument about cattle processing is not really about meat, it is about dominance. Beulah expects Beth to submit to the local power structure. Beth refuses, and that refusal officially begins the ranch war. Carter quietly becomes the most important character. The real surprise of Dutton Ranch is Carter. For the first time since Yellowstone introduced him, Carter feels like his own character instead of simply Beth and Rip's adopted son. The show spends significant time showing how isolated he feels in Texas. He is older than many of the students around him, socially awkward, and desperate for connection outside ranch life. That emotional vulnerability explains why he falls for Oreana so quickly. Oreana makes him feel understood. When Carter violently defends her from Hoyt at the rodeo, the scene mirrors Rip's protective instincts almost perfectly. Carter has learned from Rip that violence becomes justified when protecting someone vulnerable. But emotionally, Carter also sees himself in Oreana. Both characters feel trapped by complicated families and expectations they never chose. That is why their chemistry feels believable instead of forced. Why Oreana could become Beth's biggest problem. The reveal that Oreana is Beulah Jackson's granddaughter and Rob Will's daughter changes everything. Suddenly, Carter's romance becomes political, and honestly, this storyline may become the emotional center of the season, because Beth and Rip can fight enemies, they understand ranch wars, but Carter falling in love with someone tied directly to the Jackson dynasty creates a completely different kind of danger. If Carter becomes emotionally attached to Oreana, Beth may struggle to fully attack the Jackson family without hurting him, and Beth clearly views Carter almost like her own son now. That maternal instinct is exactly what makes this situation dangerous. There is also another layer many fans are overlooking. Oreana herself may carry emotional damage from growing up around Rob Will's violence and Beulah's controlling influence. Her rebellious personality suggests someone trying to escape family expectations. That parallels Beth's own relationship with John Dutton in some fascinating ways, which means Beth may eventually see parts of herself in Oreana, even while fearing she could destroy Carter emotionally. Whitney is more dangerous than the Jacksons. Realize one of the smartest details in episode 2 is Whitney refusing the payoff. In Yellowstone stories, powerful ranch families usually survive because ordinary people eventually surrender under pressure. Whitney does the opposite. She immediately realizes Joaquin is lying about Wes abandoning his family. Filing the missing person report officially turns this from a private scandal into a public investigation, and people asking questions are often more dangerous than violent characters in the Yellowstone universe. Whitney's persistence could eventually expose not only the Jackson family, but Rip's involvement with moving the body. What the ending really means.